Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Gwen. I'm a marketing strategist. My job is to help you get better results from your marketing. I'm really glad that you're here today. If this is the first time listening, thank you for checking me out. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. And if you sent me a message or an email asking questions or giving me feedback, I really appreciate it. So thank you again. Let's get into this episode. What we're going to talk about today is the things that you can learn from your analytics. And I know that analytics can be scary, but we're going to walk you through it so that you can feel more confident and you can start getting better results from your marketing. Because if you listen, your analytics will tell you a story. There's numbers and there's data, and we can dig into it and we can learn a lot. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Do you ever feel stuck when it comes to marketing your business, especially on social media, because you feel like you're just shouting into the void? Maybe you don't get likes. Maybe you don't get comments. Maybe you feel like nobody is actually listening. And that may be true. That may be true. But if you're not looking at your analytics, you might actually be missing the bigger picture. Or maybe you're wondering if your email marketing or your website is doing what you need it to do to bring you customers and bring you leads and all of those good things that help you run your business. Again, if you're not looking at your analytics, you're not going to know what's working and what's not. And when you know what's working and what's not, you can make better business decisions. And I want you to be able to have that power to be able to do that for your own business. So when it comes to doing our own marketing, it can be really easy to focus on just getting the content out there and being consistent. And that's as far as we go with it. And both of those things are incredibly important. Don't get me wrong. But we also have to look at what's working and what's not. And the best way to see that is not through likes or comments. It's actually through your analytics, because analytics give us a bigger picture. They give us more information than we would have otherwise. And if you're not seeing all of the information, you might not be making the best decisions for your business. It can be very easy to think that something isn't working, but in reality, it is getting you in front of new people. They're just not necessarily making actions yet. But our analytics will show us who's seeing our content, whether they are followers, whether they are new people. It's really exciting. Today, I want to talk about what you can learn from your analytics and the decisions that you can make based on what you learn. And this applies to, again, your social media. All of the different platforms have analytics, your website, your email marketing. All of these things have data that we can learn from. First, let's start with your social media. I think that's a really easy place to start. And it's one of the places that people feel as if they're not actually getting any traction, when in reality, they might be, but it is over time and it is something that they have to look for. Often when it comes to social media, we think that a post only does well if it goes viral. But in reality, most social media posts aren't going to go viral. And so if the only thing that you're looking at when it comes to your social media is, did this post go viral? Did this post get me a lot of views? There's more information that we can look at. So one of the things that we can look at is which posts took somebody from just scrolling, just looking at our content, to taking some kind of action. And yes, we can judge that by likes, we can judge that by comments, but we can also judge that by, did they click on our bio? Did they look at other things on our page? Did they watch other videos? Did they send us a message? Did they click off of the social media platform into our website? All of those things show that somebody is really interested in the content that we are creating. Obviously, likes are kind of the thing that we always think about, but a like isn't actually that big of an action. For example, if you make a post and somebody follows you from that post, that really resonated with them. If you make a post and a lot of people follow you from that post, then that might be something more to think about when it comes to creating your content. Is this kind of post got me followers last time? If I do something similar, can I replicate that? Because a lot of marketing is experimentation. It is trying something, it is seeing if something works. And then if it works, we learn from that and we do more of that. That is part of what we can learn from our analytics. And if we're not looking at our analytics, we don't have that information. By looking at our analytics, we can also pay attention to which platforms tend to do best for us. There are some businesses who do amazing on Instagram and typically flop on TikTok, or they do great on Pinterest and they flop on Facebook. But if you're not looking at your analytics and you're not seeing where your audience is coming from, what they're doing on those platforms and how they're engaging with you, if you're just posting and then never looking at your analytics, again, you're missing information. You might have an audience that's really interested in what you're doing, and spending more time with that audience makes sense versus maybe you're spending a lot of time in an audience where you don't get a lot of traction. We can actually learn more about our audience by looking at our analytics. Most of us can tell, depending on which social media platform you're using, we can tell when our audience is actually online, which days they're online, which times they're online, so that we can get a better chance at being in front of them versus randomly posting throughout the day without any kind of strategy behind it. So from social media analytics, what we can learn is where our audience is, where they are most likely to engage, where we get the most kind of interaction, whether that's follows or comments. We can also see which of our posts are shown to our own audience and which are shown to people who aren't following us. And sometimes if you want more attention outside of your bubble, focusing on posts that get shown to a broader audience is a really good way to go. And so that is one of the things that we can learn from analytics is we can make a post and see, oh, this post for whatever reason was shown to a lot of our non-followers and we got in front of new audiences and those people followed us. So how can we do more of that? That's basically what social media analytics shows you is what's working and how to do more of it. And that's fantastic because that helps you get in front of new audiences. It helps you stay connected to your own audiences. And it also helps move you away from thinking that just because a social media post didn't get a comment, it was a flop. Not everybody wants to comment on posts. Not everybody likes to like posts. Some people do. I'm personally a big fan of liking everything that I see, but I don't always leave comments. And I'm sure that you're the same way. But we can see people aren't liking this or they're not leaving comments, but they're watching it through to the end. So even though they're not necessarily engaging, the content is engaging with them. Moving on from social media, let's talk about your email list because this is going to be your warmest audience. These are people who have given you their email address. These are people who have already said that they're interested in what you're sharing. So what can we learn from their behavior? Because yes, there's analytics here too, and we can learn from these analytics. So one of the things that is really common when it comes to email marketing is that we look at open rates. And those are useful to a point, but over the past couple of years, there have been several privacy updates around email marketing. And so sometimes the email provider will say that it was opened even if it wasn't. And so we don't necessarily use that as the best possible benchmark anymore, just because it's not always accurate. So since open rates aren't super reliable as far as what's actually working and what's not, we can look at click rates, which means if you're putting something in your email list that somebody can click on, whether that's a link to a product, a link to a service, a link to a blog post, a link to a video, when people click on those, it will tell us, our email service provider will tell us who's clicking on the links that we're putting in our email. And then over time, we can see which links, which information that we share in our email gets a lot of traction and gets a lot of clicks. And we can learn from that audience because those people are interested enough to click on what we shared, to go to our shop, to go to our blog, to go watch another video, to go to a resource that we shared. And then we can learn over time what makes our audience interested enough to click. And then again, we can do more of that. We can provide the kind of information that they're looking for. But if we're just randomly sending out emails and there's not a lot of strategy behind it, and we don't really look at our analytics and we don't know what people are clicking on, it can feel harder to move forward because we're sending out emails, but we don't know what's working. But our analytics will tell us what's working and what's not working. We just have to look. We've talked about social media and we've talked about email marketing. Now I want to move on to your website, and your website analytics might feel a little bit bigger and scarier because Google Analytics comes up here. And last year they made a bunch of changes to their platform and it's a lot harder to use than it used to be. And so you might feel a little bit overwhelmed. But the good news is whatever you built your website on, whether that's Squarespace, whether that's WordPress, whether that's Wix, whatever it is probably going to give you at least a little bit of analytics data that we can look at. And so that way you can look at it without having to go down a Google Analytics rabbit hole. So let's start with what you can learn before you even go to Google Analytics. First of all, you should be able to see how much traffic your site is getting, meaning how many people are actually coming to your website. And this is important to look at because if part of your goals are more sales and you have a website and your sales come from your website, then more traffic means more potential leads, more people interested in what you're doing. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And even if you have very few visitors right now, that's okay. This is just a place to start. I want you to come at this from a place of curiosity instead of frustration. We're just gathering information at this point. We can make decisions about what to do with that information later. But first we just have to look at it. We're just looking. You may also be able to see which pages are most popular on your website. And that might surprise you. I'm guessing that your homepage is probably going to be the most popular. But you might see other pages that maybe you didn't know were getting traffic, or you're surprised by the amount of traffic that they're getting. And again, unless we look, we don't know. And here's the cool thing. If there's a page that is getting a lot of traffic, but it's not getting any sales and it should be, then that gives us a place to start. We can use that analytic data to say, we're clearly getting traffic to this page, but why isn't it converting? And then we can test and we can experiment and we can try different things. But again, if you don't know your analytics, you don't know that that's an option. And once you have a place to start, you can build on that with intention over time in a lot of different ways. And that's where the marketing strategy comes in. But it's a really cool thing to learn. We can also learn where in general your traffic is coming from. So we should be able to see, even if you're not using Google Analytics, even if you're just using, whatever data Squarespace gives you or Wix or whatever, we should be able to see where your traffic is coming from. And generally speaking, that's going to be social media and sometimes it might even break it down to which kinds of social media. So is it Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Pinterest, any of those options. And we should also be able to see whether or not people are coming through an organic search, they're just typing something into Google and coming to you, whether they are coming from somebody else's website, which is also called a referral traffic. So maybe somebody tagged your website somewhere and they are sending you traffic and you don't know that unless you look at your analytics. For the most part, at this level, we won't be able to see the exact search terms that brought people to your website. That's a whole other conversation, but it does give us an idea of where our traffic is coming from. And we can see that when we look at our Instagram analytics or our TikTok analytics, it will show you clicks to your website, but seeing it in kind of a pie chart usually is really nice because then you can see all of the social media platforms in one place. And you can see this one is bringing me traffic. This one's not. Maybe I spend more time here. Maybe I don't. But we can't know what kind of decisions to make unless we start with the data. I don't want to talk about Google Analytics here too much because it is a really big topic, but I will share a couple of my favorite things to look at when I am looking at either my own site or a client's site when we are working together. I like to see when somebody comes onto my website or a client's website, not so let's say they land on their homepage, where do they go next? Or if they come in on a landing page, where else do they go? How do they travel around the site and which pages are attracting them? That's something that we can see. I can also look at a particular page and see all of the different kinds of traffic that came from different places around the internet. I really like to look at that because that lets me see which pages are doing well and not only the website in general, where the general traffic comes from, but which specific pages are attracting different kinds of traffic. Finally, one of the things that I find is really helpful is looking at analytics over time, looking at traffic over time, because a lot of times we think of analytics and we take a snapshot and we look at it on a specific day. But what really happens with these analytics is over time, we can see patterns and being able to figure out the patterns of when is traffic really good to my site? Traffic dropped off here. Why did it drop off? How can I fix it? All of those things are really good and interesting information to have as you're running a business, because if your traffic drops, that probably means that your sales are also going to drop. And so seeing these things happening and being able to adjust for them makes a lot of sense. Okay, so are analytics overwhelming? Sometimes a little bit. Can they be a little frustrating? Absolutely. And I think one of the things that's really important when we're talking about this is to always approach it from a place of curiosity instead of frustration, especially when we're talking about social media, because our analytics, our reach, our engagement will go up and down over time. That's a completely normal thing. But what we're looking for is patterns over time and continual growth over time. Again, not something that goes viral, not a one hit wonder that doesn't do anything else for you, but continual growth over time and connecting with the right audiences and connecting with them in a way that helps them engage and helps them want to interact with us. That's really what analytics can help us do. Because at the end of the day, what it helps us do is it helps us connect with our audience. It helps us meet them where they are, and it helps us provide the kind of content and information that they're looking at so that they will either buy from us, follow us, work from us, all of those things that we want. I do have an analytics tracker that I will put in the description for you so that you can grab, so that you can start tracking your own analytics. This tracker includes a download so that you can actually track your analytics. And then I go into a little bit more information about how to use it and what we're looking for when you are tracking your analytics. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, you can email me, gwen@gwenmontoya.com. If this has inspired you to track your analytics, please let me know. Please let me know what you're learning. I would love to hear from you.